Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of The Buck Stops Here, the official audio and video program of NotInHallOfFame.com. And I've got with me three special guests. I've got Joe, Bay, and Colin, the people behind another grassroots campaign. And I love grassroots campaigns to get people into various halls of fame. And today it's about the Cyndi Lauper campaign to get her into the Hall of Fame. And I'm a big fan of hers. I remember, actually, I think one of the first tapes I actually got as a Christmas present, I think it was the same time I got that. It was a very eclectic group. It was Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual, Twisted Sister, a lot of different things, Def Leppard, Pyromania. I was all over the place, still am. So I'm just going to put it to the three of you. Just let's get the main case. If we were all in an elevator and I found out that's what you're all pushing for, why Cyndi Lauper? Why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And I'll leave that to any one of you to open up with.
All right, well, I'll go first. I would say Cyndi's been performing for 45 years. You know, she's been doing it live from the beginning, started in a cover band. And she's still performing, still recording. You know, she averages 2 to 3 albums per year. She's a household name. You know, in the 80s, she basically founded new wave counter fashion, and many artists to this day credit her for influencing their career. So in a nutshell, I think she's more than deserving. She's been nominated, well, not nominated, she's been eligible since 2009 and nominated 0 times. So I think it's time that she gets some nominations.
Is there anyone who would like to add to that? Same question.
Well, I'll throw in there. I mean, she's sold over 50 million albums worldwide. She's always, even though she doesn't hit the charts anymore, she's always stayed relevant in culture. She, like Joe said, influenced countless artists over the years. And I mean, the criteria they look for is just longevity and just is inspirational to other artists, and success. Chart success is important. She was the first female artist to have 4 top 5 singles from a debut album, and she held that record for a while. I mean, it's very impressive when you look at her overall career. So
it is a very impressive career. I think, you know, they're very vague in their criteria, and I think they kind of have to be. But they do cite influence, which is something that you've all mentioned as a key contributing factor to why she should. The Hall has never been the best in recognizing female artists. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, why is this the reason? Or like, why haven't we seen her nominated thus far? I get the feeling, and I could be wrong here, but she would seem to be one of those artists where I get the feeling if she was nominated, there's a good chance based on the pattern of this group of electors, she could very well get in first try. Although, like you all said, she hasn't been nominated for when has she been eligible for? Like 12 years, I believe? Or am I wrong on that? Over 10 for that.
And, you know, what we have seen is, you know, some people have to be nominated several years before they're voted in. So I love your enthusiasm. That'd be great if she was voted in for her first nomination.
Be great.
Yeah.
But I would also like to note that if you think about the time frame between 1986 and 2020, there's only been 923 people inducted into the Hall of Fame. 70 of those 923 people are women. And it's also we need to induct more women into Rock Hall. And, you know, women who are selected, like they say every year, it should be 8 men, 1 woman. It's always 1 up to 2 women a year who get inducted, not even that. That's also a big factor too.
Yeah, to be fair though on that one, I think what skews those numbers is a lot of all-male bands. Although when the Go-Go's got nominated, or not nominated, but inducted last year, I mean, that certainly changed a few things around. But it is still a factor where it is not exactly a female-friendly institution, despite many claims by them that they are. One thing that I've sort of wondered, and this is just me off the top of my head, I could be way off. And I just go back from when I was a kid. So in terms of like when Cyndi came up, or at least became well known, rather, it was around the same time that Madonna did. So this is just me, and the three of you might have a totally different opinion than I do. In the 80s, or at least in the mid 80s, I always had them as like 1 and 1A in terms of successful female musicians of sort of the whole pop thing. Madonna's career, I think we can agree, did overtake Cyndi's, but Cyndi actually was behind by 10 years. I didn't realize until recently that she didn't even hit it big until she was 34. And you'd never know it looking at her.
I think she was 30 when She's So Unusual came out.
Was 30, okay.
And at that time, that was late, you know. I think that, keep in mind, she had been performing for many, many years at that point in 3 bands prior to a solo career. But when she hit it big, she was 30. She clearly didn't look it, and I think she's aging gracefully. You know, we just saw her last night on the tribute for Joni Mitchell, and she looked incredible. So she's holding up really well and still out there and still, you know, doing it for the fans.
Now, I think with her career path, she just did her own thing. Madonna always played chameleon, but she was always trying to stay ahead of a curve. Cyndi, to me, always struck me as someone who just wanted to do her thing. Am I fair in that?
And she still does. She still does her own thing. She just wants to perform music that she wants to do, and she writes about, you know, her own songwriting too. She just wants to do what she wants to do, and she has control of that too.
Is that maybe a factor that also plays in how she's being forgotten by the Rock Hall? Maybe because she could have easily done another album that would have played more towards the changing taste of the time, but Cyndi just did what Cyndi wanted to do. Am I fair in that?
No, that's a really good summary of her career. I mean, she said many times in interviews that, you know, she wasn't doing it for fame and fortune or money. She just wanted to be an artist. She wanted to be creative, and she wanted to write, you know, this song that would never be forgotten. And I think that works for and against her. You know, apparently she's gotten some people to say that she can be difficult, but the reality is, I think this is more of a strength than a weakness. With her being a feminist, I think that she continues to kick down the doors for women, you know, 45 years later. So I'm hoping that now that Janet's gotten in and the Go-Go's got in, I think Cyndi's next, and hopefully we'll have a wave of other women. Not that other women don't deserve it, but I think Cyndi's overdue.
One of the things I mentioned that I wanted to ask you is, and I don't know if any of you really sort of thought about that because you're so involved in this project, but this is the same question that I asked Mike Litherland, who was huge on inducting Janet Jackson. And I said to him, if this is ever successful, is there somebody that you would say, okay, now I want to push for this person? So same question.
Of the three of us, of the three of us, I do have another favorite act, and they're actually on the ballot this year. So I don't want to steer the conversation towards them, but I am a big Duran Duran fan. So, and they're on the ballot. But if we get Cyndi in, I mean, speaking in the female genre, I mean, I don't know. I think Lady Gaga will be coming up in a few years. No, she's still many years from being eligible. Never mind, forget that one. Not sure who I would get.
Lady Gaga, it looks to me like she's going to be a first and then.
Yeah, she will be.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. She deserves it.
Yeah.
So I noticed too that you're working on a museum. Can you tell me about that?
So that would be my project. That's my main project. Our Induct Cyndi Lauper is kind of a side project. And I'll tell you about that. But before I forget, I would say I would like Alanis to get in.
Okay.
Or would be a good choice. You know, Cyndi was 80s, Alanis was 90s. I think she'd be a good next choice.
She'd be eligible now, wouldn't she? Yeah,
she's eligible right now, yes.
Yeah. Bay, who would you want to get in?
Myself personally?
Yeah, Bay and Kirk, who would you pick?
Bay, I'll let you go first.
I don't know.
Well, I can sort of answer then, I guess, for myself. Of the people who are nominated this year, I am a huge Duran Duran fan. So I'm cheering for them to get in. I think they have had a reputation of being somewhat soft, in terms of their musical chops, which I've always thought was incorrect. Yeah, they look good. So I wish I did too.
I definitely think Pat Benatar should get in too. She would be a good person for that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Pat's
she'll get a bit-
sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Pat Benatar. Yeah.
Pat's an interesting one too, because this is her second time being nominated. And the first time she was nominated, it was with her husband. And I thought that was really interesting.
Oh.
And I had a discussion with the lady named Evelyn McDonald, who is actually a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame voter. And she had mentioned, like this, we had a little bit of, I don't want to say a disagreement, but maybe a different perspective on it. Because she was sort of thinking that it was a little bit offensive that she was lumped in with her husband, but her husband, they are a collaborative duo and have been pretty much since the beginning. I thought that they were actually doing it maybe to try to help get her in case they thought maybe she didn't have it on her own, and that, well, basically her husband writes all the material, which I know isn't true, but perception can be strange, and we don't even know who the ballot consists of. That's the one thing that frustrates me to no end. So even when I talked to Evelyn, who is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame voter, she couldn't tell me how many other voters there are. She doesn't know.
Interesting. I think based on what I have seen, and you guys can confirm or deny this, I think there are about 30 people on the nomination committee and about 1,100 voters. And I think the voters are people who are already in the music industry. So people who've been inducted, people who are musicians and or maybe writers. I think like people who write for Rolling Stone and the magazines and things like that. So you kind of have to be good to get a vote. It's not just an average person, right? Like you kind of have to earn that.
Right, but there's still not like a comprehensive list of who they all are. And just, because I do the same thing for football, baseball, hockey, all that. So like I can tell you, well, in hockey and baseball, it's like over 400, but I've got a list of who they all are.
Sure.
With this one, I'm not even sure who they all are. I mean, presumably all the Sex Pistols, because they are inductees, they refuse to show up. So you got to assume they're not even sending in a vote. Presumably, I don't know.
I don't know that we're supposed to know. I think it's probably a mystery, so we don't hound the voters. They don't want to be,
That's probably true also.
For their vote. That would be really annoying. But I did hear that I think it's this year, there's going to be a new round of voters. I guess like there's some new either voters or committee. I can't remember, but maybe it's the committee is going to have a new membership. So
yeah, they're rotating some things out. Yes.
Yeah. So even if you find out who has voted or been involved in the past, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to stay involved.
That's very true, and you never know how active some people are going to be in with this. But yeah, sorry, I think I skewed us away from we're talking about the museum because I want to know more about how you envision that. So I'm so sorry. That's my fault.
Well, we could talk. No, that's my fault because I was talking about Alanis, but let's talk about Cyndi because that's why we're here. Okay. So I've been collecting Cyndi memorabilia for a long time, since '84, and at 52 now, I've been collecting most of my life, and I can go on record saying that it is the biggest collection of Cyndi Lauper memorabilia in the world. Mm-hmm. There are rooms of things, everything from rare LPs to her wardrobe, to a wig, to stage outfits. So I do it for fun. It's just my project, but the fans kind of will hear about it or want to come see it. And so, in the past 3 years, we've been doing a real social media push. And so it's been nice to have fans come from all over, the country or the world to come see it while they're in Florida. And of course, it's free. And I've met a lot of nice people doing it.
Nice. And I think everyone who's listening or watching this, would all be familiar with that smash, She's So Unusual, that album, and True Colors, and so many of the other things. But what would be the one thing that you would, and I'm going to ask this of each of you, so because you might all have a different answer for this, what would be the one song or one album that you would want to point people who know Cyndi just from that era, and you want to say, look, you know what, you think you know Cyndi? Well, you listen to this. So just because I'm just going to go left to right because I have three of you in my list. Joe, I'll just start with you. What would your answer be for that?
That's such a tough question. Because
you can say multiple.
Okay, let me pick two. One for dance, because Cyndi does all genres. And I think that's another reason she should be in is she's done every genre of music, and her producer, Bill Whitman, actually said, quote unquote, she created her own genre of music for She's So Unusual. And then she went on to do everything from blues to country to dance. So if you like dance music, my favorite dance song of Cyndi's is Into the Nightlife. I think it's a really great jam. And if you're a balladeer, I prefer Cyndi's ballads. I fell in love with her through Time After Time. I think her second best ballad is Hatful of Stars, which is the title track off of her Hatful of Stars album, I want to say 1991. Is that right, Colin?
93.
93.
Yeah.
So I would say a sad love song and a great dance pop hit.
You just steered me into something. I didn't know that she was doing some country. I wasn't aware of that at all. Okay. I'm on a big giant old country kick right now.
Oh, you did love her country album. She has other legends on it, like Willie Nelson and
okay.
Who else is on there? Oh my goodness.
Emmylou Harris.
Emmylou Harris is on there.
All right, Willie and Cyndi.
Jewel, but
she's
not.
Alison Krauss. I think Alison Krauss too. Yes.
How did I miss this? When was this?
2016.
Okay. All right. Well, I clearly I didn't do enough research here. Did I?
That's okay. No, I think
she covered old country. The album is full of covers of country songs from the 50s and 60s. Old classic, old country.
That's right now. That's pretty much what I've been doing because I've realized very quickly that I just can't keep up anymore. It's getting old.
Aren't we all? Speaking of country, I think that I would love Dolly to still get in. I don't think people will throw their votes at her now that she's kind of gracefully removed herself, but I still think she deserves it.
I don't know if we want to I know this is all about Cyndi here, but since that sort of came up, I think when she said it, a lot of the votes were already in. So it's really curious to see what they were going to do because I have a feeling that Dolly will get chosen in that top 5 or 6, but that's been, what do you do? I mean, when Dolly speaks, you listen, but I think they're going to want to try and talk her into sort of graciously take it. And I can see her, how do you not love her modesty? She meant every word she said when she tried to gracefully bow out, but man, I don't know.
It's tough. I mean, she's a Cyndi fan. Cyndi's a Dolly fan, so I think by default we love Dolly. Who doesn't love Dolly?
Okay.
But I think she's the kind of the epitome of female artist, and so regardless of what genre she's known for, she's influenced so many people. It would be a shame for her to be overlooked for that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so getting back on the track that I try to lay down, I'm not always the best at this, I'll admit. Bay, so the same question. What is sort of that hidden gem that if anyone listening, that you just want to say, look, listen to this?
Okay, so Cyndi is so broad in all these different genres, and this is my question that I struggle with because there's just so many really good songs by her. But for her 25th anniversary of her Sisters of Avalon album is this week, so I would like to highlight the Sisters of Avalon album. She's got a couple of songs on there. I Don't Know, or You Don't Know, and the Sisters of Avalon song. That whole CD is a personal favorite of mine. I would definitely check out that album and those songs for that one.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, and Colin, we'll close with your thoughts on that.
Sure. So although I love all Cyndi eras, my actual favorite Cyndi era is the 90s. Not to take away from any other era. So actually, they've already been brought up, but her Sisters of Avalon album from 97 and her Hatful of Stars album from 93. And even her Shine album, which was recorded in 2000, I'm looping it in the same era. That to me, that's her artistic brilliance period. Not to take away from her other eras, but for me personally, those 3 albums, amazing. So
I mean, every single era of Cyndi Lauper is amazing, no matter what she does, So it's really hard to pick a favorite, or it's just so broad, you can't keep up with it, but it's just all great.
I think anyone and everyone who is watching or listening, if you're not getting a better appreciation for this artist, I can't help you. I don't know what more to say on that one. This has been a lot of fun. I hope that we can all do this again, and maybe it might be a time when she's nominated.
Let's hope.
Yes.
Do it.
I'd like to.
I very much enjoyed this conversation. Is there any other sort of like final things that you would like to say to the audience?
Yes. If you are a Cyndi fan, and I hope you are, most people are, and whether you're, a casual fan or a super fan, all we're asking is for about 20 seconds. If you could go to inductcindylauper.com, it's free. You just give us your first and last name. You could even give a fictitious name and an email. And there's two places to sign. There's a section to sign for having Cyndi nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there's also a section if you want her into Madame Tussauds. So sign one or both of those petitions, and we do not use your information in any way. We're just collecting those so we can show that there is a lot of interest from the fan base. So please go to that website. It's inductcindylauper.com. And then if you want to help generate social media, it's #InductCindy.
Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, thank you all so much. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope we do this again.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, my
Thank
pleasure.
you, Eric.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone.